Stop the shutdown when? Today. When? Today. All right. Brothers and sisters of NATCA and aviation partners, thank you for being here, for standing up for aviation, standing up for what's right, standing up for what's fair. The government employees that work and live for aviation safety are being used as a political pawn one more time. We don't care what the issue of the day is, whether it's health care, gun control, or immigration. We don't want to be in the middle of a political tug-of-war. All we want to do is run the safest, most efficient system in the world. We are highly trained, highly skilled professionals, and we need to have our whole team at work so that we continue to be the world leader in aviation. This is the third shutdown in the last 12 months. And to be completely clear, the professionals we represent are 100% against this government shutdown. We implore Congress and the White House to end this shutdown. Let me hear you. End this shutdown? Today. End this shutdown? Today. End this shutdown? Today. This FAA shutdown is threatening the national airspace system, negatively affecting 12 million American jobs, $1.5 trillion into our gross domestic product that we do annually. And at the end of the day, it's just complete nonsense. Every day the shutdown continues, it has negative consequences on the national airspace system and the employees. Zero paychecks are hitting our bank accounts right now. That's completely unacceptable. These are real people with real consequences. Real people, real consequences. We're coming back to work every day to maintain the safety of the system with no pay. But you know what? Air traffic control is 100% a team occupation, and a lot of our team members are being told to stay home. So we are eroding the level of safety in the system as this continues on. We must stay strong. We are NATCA. Strong. NATCA. Strong. We are union. Proud. Union. Proud. It's windy. Today, FAA groups are unable to meet to implement new safety procedures. We are delaying equipment maintenance and putting risks into the system. At the end of this day, we must open the government. End the shutdown? Today. End the shutdown? Today. They've shut the FAA Academy, ending the pipeline of new air traffic controllers. They've stopped the training, ending training in our facilities and advancing equipment. No simulation training going on. Developmentals in our facilities that are learning in the apprentice, under an apprentice program to become air traffic controllers are sitting around doing nothing except at home wanting to come to work and not getting a paycheck. It's completely unacceptable. We're at a 30-year low of air traffic controllers, and due to the halt of the hiring and maintaining the system, the staffing shortage is going to get worse, and we're going to see delays in the system. That is completely unacceptable. This is real consequences for real people. I say it's real consequences. Real people. Congress, White House, end this shutdown. Today. The modernization projects that we worked so hard on to make the FAA and our national airspace a world leader have completely come to a stop. The safety programs that we've been working on to build the ultimate safety culture that we've had in the last 10 years completely come to a stop. As this continues to go on, the layers of safety are being reduced into our airspace system for no reason whatsoever. We don't want to be in this tug-of-war. We want to run the safest system in the world. End the shutdown? Today. End the shutdown? Today. That's what we're talking about. End the shutdown today. It's just completely unacceptable. There's new users, private companies trying to get into the system, whether it's the Super Bowl that's happening in less than 30 days, and we can't even implement new procedures to accommodate the increase of over 1,000 aircraft wanting to go to Atlanta. It's already a busy, saturated airspace system, and we can't train on new procedures. It's completely unacceptable. End the shutdown? Today. End the shutdown? Today. I'd like to bring up the first speaker, my senator, senior senator from Virginia, Mr. Mark Warner.
Well, thank you, Paul. Boy, it is windy today, and the politicians haven't even started. You know, Good job. Over 10 years ago, when I was a candidate, a job applicant for the senator, I had a chance to meet Paul Rinaldi. And he started to educate me about the great job that you all do. He educated me about the need to fill the pipeline. He educated me about the challenges around NextGen. And to tell you the truth, he also scared the hell out of me about how important it is. And I say this, I know we've got pilots here, attendants, others as well. But he educated me about what an incredibly professional, world-class job that our air traffic controllers do each and every day. Now, over the last 2 years, I've thought with Mr. Trump in the White House, things can't get any weirder. And then every day, they get weirder. We're now approaching, and it'll happen this weekend, the longest government shutdown in American history. And a shutdown based upon a request from this president that he never made when the Republican Party controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Only now has this issue risen to the top to the point that we'd shut down the government. Now, I echo what Paul has said, and with folks with the AFL down earlier today. What we want to do is end this shutdown today. And the truth is, if Donald Trump is not willing to end the shutdown, then the Congress of the United States needs to vote to end this shutdown today. Earlier today, the Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, said he won't vote on anything because he feels we can't pass a bill that the president wouldn't sign. Well, I point out to the Republican leader that he needs to reread the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution sets up the Congress as a co-equal branch of government. The Constitution says, Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2, that if 2/3 of the Senate and the House, they can override a presidential veto. In mid-December, the Senate voted on the very bill that the House has already passed, 96-2, to reopen the government, keep the government open. If those folks voted for it in December, let's vote for it today and get this government open. Final thing I want to say is, frankly, thank you. Thank you to all of you air traffic controllers and professionals in the airspace. For the fact is, over the last 19 days, you have continued to go to your posts. You have continued to keep our airways safe. Thank you for that service. But I got to tell you, come Friday, you don't get those checks, Lord knows what may happen. So thank you for your service. Do what we need to do, what your President Paul has said. Let's get this government reopened today. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Senator Warner. Our next speaker is Chairman David Price from North Carolina.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Great to be here with all of you, and the reason I'm rushing in is that I'm going to rush right back to the House floor, and within the hour, we're going to pass a transportation appropriations bill to reopen this government. And as the senator just said, we've made it real easy for the Republicans to say yes, because they voted for this very bill with almost unanimous support. And now Mitch McConnell won't even bring it to the floor. This is absolutely unacceptable. We're approaching the longest shutdown in American history, and for what? We've had some pretty foolish shutdowns in the past. This one takes the cake. I never saw anything like it, and you're good to come together today. All these aspects of the aviation industry, general aviation, the commercial airlines, unmanned aviation, air traffic controllers, FAA safety specialists, flight attendants, on and on. You're here together. You know, sometimes you don't agree on everything, but you sure do agree on this. We all agree on this. This is absolutely got to stop, and the damage is great, and the damage is continuing, and the damage is going to be even more obvious tomorrow as the paychecks don't come. But we have air traffic controllers and inspectors furloughed or on the job without pay. We have aircraft certification held up. We have airport grants suspended. We have next-gen improvements on hold. The list goes on and on and on. It's bad for our country. It's damaging. It's the opposite of what our president and our Congress ought to be delivering for the American people. Donald Trump's holding this country hostage for his ridiculous wall. And remember, he said Mexico was going to pay for it. Well, he wants the American people to pay for it, and we don't intend to pay for it. But we do have a simple message for him. Don't hold the whole rest of the government hostage. Let's get government open, and then let's give ourselves a month to negotiate on border security. That's about as reasonable as it gets. And yet, he's turning us down flat, and we are determined, though, to see this through. And with your help, the American public is going to understand what's at stake here, and we're all going to see it through together. So thank you for being here. I'm going to rush right back. We're going to pass that bill, and we feel like we have, of course, literally wind at our back, but political wind at our back because of your support and your solidarity and your determination to see this through. Thank you. Let's see it through.
Thank you, Chairman Price. He said, open the government. Today. Open the government. Today. Open the government. Today. All right. Our next speaker doesn't need to be introduced, but I'd love to bring her up and introduce her. The greatest executive vice president NATCA has ever had, Patricia Gilbert.
Oh, sorry. When your staff yanks at your coat, you stop and listen. We do have, and I apologize to our aviation partners that are here to speak with us today. We just have two congressmen that are going to come up really quick together. Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican from Pennsylvania, who voted yes to open up the government on H.R. 21. Yes. And from New York, Congressman Peter King also voted yes on H.R. 21. If they could come up real quickly, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. First and foremost, to all the aviation security professionals, personnel, thank you. We thank you for the work you do every single day to keep our aviation system working, to keep it safe. And I don't know about you guys, but where I come from, we don't say thank you by not paying you. We say thank you by paying you on time and the amount that you are expecting in your paycheck. You know, Peter and I both spent a lot of time working on aviation security matters, most recently a bill called H.R. 911, the Saraceni Aviation Safety Act for fortified cockpit barriers. We work so closely with so many of you. And our position is very, very clear, that there are a lot of positions, a lot of debates that can be had in the halls of Congress behind us, but they have to be done when the government is open. This is no place and no manner to have debates over issues like this, which are very important, by the way. Under these circumstances, and by no means should the federal workforce anywhere be held hijacked or be held hostage based on the dysfunction of the place behind us. We got to open the government and then solve the problems after that. So we stand with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for all the great work that you've done on this. Let me thank all the air traffic controllers, all the air security professionals for the great job that you do day in and day out. You know, with all the problems of a government shutdown, and I'm opposed to a government shutdown, but to me, nothing is more imminent. The danger is nowhere more imminent than it is in the air today. We cannot afford to play games with airline security. You above all know how dangerous the job is. You know above all, how essential it is and how much our national economy depends upon it, apart from the fact that you're saving human lives every day. So I want you to know that I will be voting with you today on H.R. 267. It's important that the government reopen. It's important also, let me just say, in the interest of bipartisanship, that if some way can be found to find some common ground to end this so that neither side has to lose face, has to worry about that, it's so important we get the government open. But in the meantime, if both sides could find some way to find the common ground. Again, I'm against the shutdown. The shutdown is here now. Hopefully negotiations can begin. But in any event, I want you to know the air traffic controllers, NATCA, you've always been incredibly powerful as far as doing what you do for the public. It's important that the public stand behind you in a powerful way as well. So thank you all, and keep up the great work, and let's get the government open. Appreciate it.
End the shutdown? Today. End that shutdown? Today. I'm proud to bring up our next speaker, our friend, Mr. Pete Bunce, President and CEO of the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. Come up, Pete.
Thank you, Trish. Ladies and gentlemen, I represent the manufacturers that produce the great aircraft, whether they're business jets, helicopters, pistons, or turboprops in this system, and now the new urban mobility vehicles. We touch the FAA in many ways, but each and every one of us that are in the system, our customers fly in the airspace every day. I'm up there flying, and the men and women that keep our skies safe, it's absolutely unconscionable to us that they are not getting paid for the tremendous work that they do in the greatest aviation system in the world. We as manufacturers and those that maintain aircraft also touch other very important parts of the FAA. There's a whole section of the FAA that controls safety, and that's divided into those that work on certification projects and those that work in flight standards that allow us the approvals to get into the airspace. We as manufacturers have had to slow down our activity right now significantly, and as this shutdown continues week after week, it is having tremendous impact that will ultimately result in our having to lay off employees. We are one of the most highly regulated industries on the planet, and for us to be able to deliver product, to get new product in the market, not only here in the U.S., to deliver to airlines and to deliver to customers, but all over the world, we have to touch those FAA professionals to be able to get the safety oversight approvals. That has stopped. One of the only activities that is succeeding, because the Congress gave us authorities in the last reauthorization in October, was to keep the registry open, but the DOT and the FAA have taken a very narrow interpretation, and the lawyers that are needed to be able to do complex transactions aren't there to allow that to happen. So we anticipate that if this shutdown goes on for the next week or two, it is going to have impact in the billions of dollars in the first quarter to our industry. So we stand very firmly with all of our sisters and brothers in not only NATCA, but all of the aerospace industry in this nation to call for our politicians to work together and to end this shutdown now. Thank you very much.
End the shutdown? End the shutdown? Thank you, Pete Bunce, for speaking. We have a chairman of the Aviation Subcommittee, Mr. Rick Larson. Come on up. Chairman.
I like that. End the shutdown. Today. End the shutdown. Today. Are you saying today? Yeah, okay. I just thought you were yelling. Yeah, okay. Yeah, end it today. We need to end the shutdown. We need to put federal workers and contractors back to work and ensure that they get the back pay that they are entitled to. These are the things that need to happen. They need to happen now. They need to happen today. I'm Washington State Representative Rick Larson. I will be the chair of the Aviation Subcommittee. And in Washington State, we have about 1,500 aerospace suppliers supplying the OEMs, the airplane manufacturers, all over the country, all over the world, with parts and components to make airplanes. Those jobs are at risk if the FAA isn't opening, making sure that safety inspections are taking place, making sure that regulators can get into these facilities to ensure the processes are right, being done the right way, that these products get made the right way, that they get delivered to the airplane manufacturers and airplanes get made. Those jobs are at risk as well in the private sector. Jobs in the public sector are at risk even today as we stand. Not just air traffic controllers, but the men and women who support those air traffic controllers, those men and women in support positions, those men and women who are the technicians making sure the equipment runs right. Those folks are out of work. I can go down a long list. The TSA workers who are having to stay home because their kids have to go off to school. They have to be sure their own kids are safe. They got to call in sick or use their sick time or whatever they have to do. Those folks are at risk. This shutdown is rippling throughout the economy, throughout the aviation economy. We need to reopen the government, ensure the federal workers and contractors get back to work and they get the pay that they're entitled to. End this shutdown. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Larson. End the shutdown? End the shutdown? All right, we have another chairman, the chairman of Infrastructure Aviation, Mr. Peter DeFazio, Transportation Infrastructure Chairman.
All right, so when are we going to end this damn thing? Hey! Trump, open the government! Trump, open the government today! Okay, I'm sorry you have to be here. This is ridiculous. Let's put it plain and simple. I gave a speech on the floor this morning. I talked about a little bit of history. Now, Trump doesn't read books, so he doesn't know any history. But I talked about the French. After World War I, they built an impenetrable barrier against a German invasion called the Maginot Line. The Germans rolled around it in one day. Now, Trump wants to build a wall partway across the border. Okay, if drugs were coming in that way, they'd go around it. They're not coming in that way. They're coming in through our legal border crossings. Every day we inspect only about 6 to 8% of the vehicles because we don't have enough personnel, who, by the way, aren't being paid either, and they don't have the technology they need. And then there's the Coast Guard. They're not getting paid either. And they intercepted $5.6 billion of illegal drugs last year, sort of the price of the wall. But the commandant said that's only 20% of the known shipments of drugs. We have 50-year-old cutters. We don't have enough air support. We don't have helicopters. We don't have enough personnel. We could stop all those drugs. But instead, he wants to spend money on a stupid Maginot Line, a wall, and he has shut down the government because of it. You know what's real national security? You guys are real national security. Every day, you keep us safe. 43,000 flights a day. You keep us safe. I fly a couple of 100,000 miles a year. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for being a critical part of the United States economy. And we're looking now at jeopardizing the largest, most complex aviation system in the world with this stupid shutdown. End the stupid shutdown! All right. I think, unfortunately, he's not down there. He can't hear us, but maybe, I don't know, maybe Fox is here or, you know, and he'll catch it there. But, you know, we also, I saw a pass on the way in. We have 3,300 inspectors who aren't working. You know, we're going to self-regulate the aviation industry. I don't think that's a great idea. You know, on top of that, the NTSB, most of their workers are off. We can't issue critical safety directives. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous for a worthless, wasteful wall. So one more time, President Trump, end the shutdown now! Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
End the shutdown? The next speaker I'd like to bring up sits on the Management Advisory Council with Paul and the Drone Advisory Committee with me. Mr. Brian Wynn is President and CEO of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, AUVSI. Brian, thank you.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Paul. Thank you all for everything that you do. I'm here to represent unmanned systems, but I'm a pilot, and you guys are my favorite people on the planet. So, end the shutdown? All right. Since 2016, in August of 2016, the FAA implemented Part 107, which allowed 100,000 commercial operators of drones that bring value to the marketplace every day. Their jobs are also at risk. It's very, very important that we have the FAA helping them work with us to keep the aviation, and with you to keep the aviation system safe. Currently, waivers are not being delivered. Airspace authorizations are not being delivered. Those who have certificates, those expire every 2 years. Those certificates are not currently being renewed. People are not being certificated to go out and earn a living. If you can't get your certificate renewed, you can't get insurance. If you can't get insurance, you can't actually pursue your business. And so we find ourselves in a terrible situation from a commercial standpoint. As all of you have seen from the standpoint of public safety, unmanned systems play an extremely important role in public safety. Someone goes missing in the woods, we use unmanned systems to find them faster. In emergency response, if something bad happens, we use unmanned systems to actually figure out where to deploy the resources to help us. So unmanned systems not being able to fly in the hands of public safety officials is also a safety risk. The long and the short is that I stand in solidarity with my aviation colleagues to ask you, Mr. President, to end this shutdown. Today! Thank you very much.
End this shutdown. Today! I'm proud to bring up my good friend, Mr. Spencer Dickerson, who's a Senior Executive Vice President for Global Operations and Secretary to the American Association of Airport Executives Board of Directors. He also oversees their international programs and the U.S. Contract Tower Association. Spencer?
Thanks, Trish and Paul, for inviting us here today. AAA represents the men and women who manage and operate close to 900 airports in the United States. Our nation's aviation system is the safest in the world. And during this unfortunate government shutdown, we continue to have full confidence in the safety and security of the air transportation network, thanks to the incredible professionalism and dedication of thousands of public and private sector employees throughout the entire system, many of whom are veterans. Thank you. Notwithstanding our great safety record, the absurdity of this government shutdown must end today. As the old saying goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. This is the third government shutdown over the past year and will be the longest in history in 2 days. Yet our leaders in Washington haven't seemed to learn the lessons from the past, including budget sequestration back in the spring of 2013, when hundreds of airline flights were delayed due to furloughs of air traffic controllers, and 150 control towers were just days away from being shuttered. Furloughing FAA, TSA, and Customs and Border Protection workers, or asking them to work without pay, is simply not fair or sustainable. Each day, over 2 million passengers fly in the United States. Each day, over 40,000 air carrier and general aviation flights take off and land, and as many 5,000 aircraft are in the system at any given time. A lengthy government shutdown will not only adversely impact airline operations, but thousands of daily military training flights and critical emergency medical, law enforcement, and disaster relief aircraft flights. And now the media is reporting the investigations of transportation accidents by the National Transportation Safety Board have been stopped, threatening the ability of the Safety Board to fully investigate and make recommendations to prevent future accidents in the transportation system. The situation today is simply unfair to the users of the aviation system. The vast majority of FAA's $16 billion annual budget is paid by airline passengers through a dedicated ticket tax and a fuel tax on general aviation flights. Airline passengers and general aviation operators should not be held hostage to completely unrelated budget battles they were seeing today in Washington. It's also important to recognize that there is no other industry in America whose day-to-day operations are under complete control of the federal government. No airline, general aviation, or military flight can move safely and efficiently through the system without FAA authorization and control. No airline passenger can board or cargo loaded onto airplanes without TSA screening. Over 11 million Americans work in the aviation industry. A prolonged shutdown of FAA, TSA, and CBP could jeopardize many of these jobs. The bottom line, the aviation industry cannot continue to be a pawn in this growing crisis in Washington. Enough is enough. End this shutdown. Thank you.
Airlines for America is here, and speaking for them, Mr. Sean Kennedy, our friend. He's Senior Vice President of Global Government Affairs. Mr. Sean Kennedy, please come up. Woo.
Good morning. My name is Sean Kennedy with Airlines for America. We represent the leading, warming up my face. We represent the leading U.S.-based passenger and cargo airlines. First, I want to thank NATCA for organizing this event today. Today, 2.3 million Americans are going to take to the skies. And they're going to do that. If you tried polling them, you might say, what enables air travel? Some are going to say the aircraft. There are 25,000 flights that are going to occur today. Some may say airports, which see billions of dollars in investment from the airlines. And they're right, but that's only part of the solution. Because at the end of the day, what enables air travel is people. On the industry side, it's flight attendants, it's pilots, it's ground crews who work tirelessly to serve our customers and make sure they reach their destinations. But why I'm here today and why everyone else is here today is because of our partnership with the federal government and federal employees to ensure that we have the safest, best air traffic control system in this country. These men and women are working every day, many without pay, to ensure that we have the safest system. But an extended shutdown is not only unfair, it puts a needless strain on what's an otherwise perfect system. Air travel used to be a nonpartisan issue. Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives all recognize that air travel is the physical internet that connects this country. We connect families, we allow small businesses to market their goods across the world. We service 800 airports in 80 countries. All that's because of the people that are here. We could not accomplish that without these federal employees. They deserve our respect, they deserve our praise, but today, they deserve a paycheck. We hope that everyone that's listening in the White House and in Congress does what they can to end this shutdown as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for leading the efforts, Airlines for America, on an industry letter, which is very strong, sending out to the President, to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and to Mitch McConnell to open the government. Today! Thank you. It is a pleasure to introduce the Senator from Connecticut, Mr. Blumenthal.
I think we ought to open the government. Today! Let's open the government. Today! Let's open the government. Today! I hope they can hear you right there. Open the government. Today! You know, I'm here really to say thank you. I'm here to say thank you on behalf of the people of Connecticut. I think the people of America who depend on you to make sure they are safe. A lot of politicians these days are talking about security, whether it's border security or economic security. Security in the skies is what you give the American people, and you work hard to make it happen. You work hard, and you deserve the government to be open.
And you deserve to be paid. You know, I've never seen a pay stub with $0 on it. I've never seen it. And you deserve to be paid. And those pay stubs with 0 net dollars are absolutely abhorrent and un-American. To make people work without pay is un-American. You deserve to be paid today. So let me just say, we're going to keep working hard. I know I'm not supposed to say anything bad about anyone. You know, my mother said, if you don't have something nice to say about someone, don't say anything. But my mother's not around. And I can tell you that every office holder in the United States of America should be here today. Be here in spirit, at least, because you are at the tip of the spear for countless federal workers who are coming to work as you are doing, and you're going to work without the support staff, the aviation specialists, and all of the professionals who give you the backup that you need, but you're out there anyway doing your job. And just so people understand, real people, real consequences, I want to read something that an air traffic controller in Connecticut said to the Hartford Courant the other day, and I'm going to read it directly. He's a resident of West Haven, Connecticut. His name is Brian Campovitis. Brian here. He visited my office yesterday. I'm really proud of the 40 air traffic controllers we have in Connecticut, and I hope that you'll hear me at some point say thank you as well. But Brian said, as a single dad, I'm a single father of my daughter, and she relies on me to be her sole provider. I have a home and mortgage. It's a hard time to be in. I'm forced to continue to go to work or face the possibility of losing my job. I spoke on the floor of the Senate just an hour or so ago, and I quoted Brian there too. You know, the American people have to understand this is about more than just dollars and cents. It's about a moral principle. People should go to work. The government should open. Today! It should open today with pride. Today. Thank you all for being here. Let's open the government.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. It's an honor and a privilege to actually have a brand new congresswoman from California. This weather's probably not treating her well. But Kate Hill, newly elected of the new freshman class, please come up and welcome. Give her a warm NATCA welcome. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for your service. This is what it's about. I represent California's 25th district, which has air traffic controllers and aviation workers that work at some of the busiest airports in the country and in the world. LAX, Burbank, Ontario, Palmdale, Long Beach. Those are all in our neighborhood. And I'm hearing stories every single day about workers who are having to decide whether they're going to pay their mortgage or some medical bills, or if they're going to pay for childcare or risk missing a shift. And these are choices that no one in a job that is supposed to be secure, that is guaranteed by the federal government, should ever have to make. So we need to open the government. Today! We need to pay our workers. Today! We need to do the right thing. Today! There is no other industry. I ran a large organization, and there is no other industry, no other setting anywhere where we would allow someone to work without pay, where we would force someone to work without pay. And I'll quote someone else from earlier today. We did that in the 1800s, and it was called slavery. And that is not allowed to happen anymore. So we're with you. We need to tell every single one of our representatives that we have to open the government. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your service. Let's get this done.
Open the government. And yes, pay our people today. Our sister is here from the international, and she's the international president for the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA. She appeared on CNN just yesterday and did a magnificent job. Here to speak to you, Miss Sarah Nelson. Come on, sister.
All right. Whoa, my legs aren't even working anymore. It's so cold out here. But it's cold here in Washington without our government open. We need to open the government today. Okay. I represent 50,000 flight attendants from the Association of Flight Attendants and just put out a letter with the Association of Professional Flight Attendants representing the majority of flight attendants across the country. We are concerned about this because we're concerned about our security, our safety, and our economic stability. You know, no one needs to tell us what it means to not have the layers of security in place to protect the aviation industry, to protect the people who make the airplanes fly, and to protect the people who are in our care on those planes and the people on the ground. Our profession changed forever on September 11th, 2001, and we became aviation's last line of defense. But aviation security is layered. And when we have DHS not operating at full capacity, and we don't have cybersecurity running at full steam, and we don't have CBP running at full steam, and FAA running at full steam, we are less safe and we are less secure. Safety and security is non-negotiable. Open the government. Open the government! You know, after September 11th, we saw a whole string of airline bankruptcies. And because of the workers in the industry, we kept our airlines flying. But even in that whole host of horribles that we went through, in every single one of those bankruptcies, on the very first day, one of the very first orders was to ask the court for approval to continue to pay the workers. Why? Because you cannot expect a workforce to come to work and do their job when they have to be concerned about the safety and security of their own families. This is not okay. We need to open the government today. Now I implore Mitch McConnell to act like an adult here. The votes are there. The reason is there. Border security is incredibly important, but don't you dare sacrifice our safety and security for that discussion. Open the government today and continue that discussion next. We're done.
She's awesome. Sarah Nelson, 2020. Open the government. I'm proud to bring up our newly elected brother at ALPA. He's the 11th president, Mr. Joe, or Captain Joe DePete.
Thank you. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. You kept me safe for many, many years. You're the shepherds of the sky. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's great to be here with my brothers and sisters in labor because on behalf of more than 61,000 pilots of the Airline Pilots Association, we stand in solidarity with you, urging Congress and the President to end this harmful government shutdown when? Today. When? Today. That's it. Let them hear you. The shutdown needlessly risks the safety, security, and efficiency of our national airspace system. Because of this shutdown, the FAA has fewer resources available than are needed to ensure the national airspace system is performing at peak levels. Airline and aircraft manufacturing oversight and activities have either been stopped or significantly reduced. Unacceptable. The FAA has fewer resources available to help ensure the safety of our airspace from drone operators who may be operating in an unsafe manner. And in addition to these serious safety and security concerns now from the heart, the shutdown is harming hard-working Americans who are employed in the aviation and airline industry, and that is unacceptable. Thank you, thank you. Many of the workers who keep flying safe and secure are being asked to do their jobs without pay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is America. That is unconscionable. We cannot stand for it. When are we going to stop this shutdown? I didn't say shutdown. Okay, as dedicated professionals, don't get me started now. You know, I'm being careful here. Air traffic controllers and many other aviation and airline industry workers are dutifully continuing to provide their life-saving services. But these workers are facing increasingly difficult financial pressures to provide for themselves and their families in the face of this shutdown. Unacceptable. As union members, we recognize the need to perform our jobs to the highest possible standards, both as employees and as professionals. It's in our DNA as pilots, and I know it's true for air traffic controllers as well. Our union brothers and sisters at NATCA play a key role in the safety of air travel. Like all workers, their dignity must be respected, not only for the important work they do every day as individuals, but also because of the collective work they do through their organization, NATCA. For example, NATCA has strong working relationships with the FAA and the Department of Transportation. Evidence can be seen in their Air Traffic Safety Action Program, ATSAP, efforts to pursue fatigue mitigation, and the creation of both professional standards and the Partnership for Safety. Each of these endeavors has helped to advance a stronger safety culture while promoting a spirit of cooperation among aviation stakeholders. And ALPA is one of those stakeholders. We've benefited, and so have the traveling and shipping public, from our collaboration and long-standing relationship with NATCA. I feel personally, and I know I speak for every ALPA pilot, all 61,000 pilots, saying how proud we are to stand shoulder to shoulder as safety partners with the air traffic controllers and their union. Now, folks, you may have heard I wrote my newly elected president, but I thought, if you're going to start right. So I wrote a letter directly to the President of the United States and to Congress. You're welcome. You're welcome. Got a little bit of attention, and I'm urging them to take the necessary steps to do what? End the shutdown when? Today. Keep our skies safe and the aviation sector strong. Make no mistake about it, folks. The aviation economy is at stake here. People's livelihoods. The people standing behind me right now. America, are you listening? Standing behind me right now. Safety is also at stake. Unacceptable. So pilots stand together with air traffic controllers and all those who work to keep our skies safe in calling on Congress and the President to get the job done. We do our jobs every day. The folks behind me do their jobs every day as well. We want them to do the jobs that they were elected to do, and do what? End the government shutdown when? Today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain DePete. Thank you, Sarah Nelson. NATCA members proudly guide you home safely every single day. Our next speaker also represents employees at the FAA that are working without pay or sent home when they would rather be working to keep the system safe. The president of the Professional Aviation Safety Specialist PASS, Mr. Mike Perrone, is our next speaker.
It's not that cold out here. You know, being from New England, a technician, it's just another day. But thank you, everybody. I'm proud to be here, unfortunately, once again, speaking on behalf of this government shutdown. But PASS represents about 11,000 FAA employees, including aviation safety inspectors, flight inspection pilots, or aeronautical information specialists, support staff, and many more, engineering services. All of those folks, the ones that are working as the air traffic controllers with no paycheck, and those who are not working, are aviation safety inspectors. And many of them are here today because as you're not working, you're not getting a paycheck. And what are we trying to say to the Hill and to the President? End the shutdown today! We were up on the White House yesterday with our signs because, again, as inspectors not working, we had some time to go up there. And we were yelling at the President and the Congress to do what? Shut the government down? No. Open the government? Yes! Here's what's happening. Essential aviation personnel are forced on the sidelines, and their important work is not getting done. Without a fully functioning FAA, a layer of safety is missing. Let me say that again. A layer of safety is missing. Our inspectors, our technicians, our air traffic controllers, everybody that does their job day in and day out when this government was open, does the most important piece of work ever. Safety of the flying public, right? We do it because it's the safety of the flying public. We want to make sure you get to point A to point B. Make sure planes are in the air, that get down, that get up, go from wherever they're going, because we do it for the safety. That's missing right now. Our aviation safety inspectors are not working. They're not inspecting airplanes. They're not inspecting the pilots. Our pilots, as you just heard from Alpa, all the folks that fly are doing what they need to do. Nobody is overseeing that. The FAA's main job is safety, and we do not have inspectors looking and making sure that this system is continuing to be safe. And every day that goes by, that could make a problem. We're not saying it's not unsafe this moment, but every day that goes by that the government is shut down, safety is going to be compromised. You folks here today and all of your counterparts out in the field working are doing everything they can to make sure it's safe. But every day that goes by, something could occur that causes a crack in the system. Right now, we have inspectors that can't go out and inspect. We have an aircraft, unfortunately, that crashed. They can't touch that. They can't go out and look, see what the cause was, because they're left out of the job. As you know, your air traffic controllers, our maintenance folks do the best job they can to maintain and certify the air traffic control system. They're behind the scenes every day, day in and day out. We don't hear about them. We don't hear about anything that happens because they do a fantastic job and they make sure you do your job. They're behind the scenes. Today, they're working on equipment. They're certifying equipment. But I know as a fact, because I was a technician in the FAA and I was in the 90s when the furlough occurred, I had to think mentally to maintain high voltage, high level equipment and then think, can I pay my mortgage? Is my wife and my daughters going to be able to do what they need to do to pay the bills? You start drifting in your mind while you're playing with high intensity equipment, something could happen, not only to the NAS, but to you, the technicians, and to the controllers if they do something wrong. Why? Safety could be compromised because we have to stop the government shutdown. Little blast. I guess I got to hurry up and be done, right? You know, we got, as NATCA said, Paul has said, Trish and others, we have a standstill, modernization. We have procedures that can't be done. All of our folks that are trying to work, they can't because none of this can be done, which is going to put a backlog. When they finally do open this government, I'm seeing if you're paying attention. When they finally open up the government, all that backlog is going to be there. And then our inspectors, our technicians, the controllers, everybody, training, all is going to be a backlog. We got right now today a pipeline of inspectors leaving the agency because they're going to go back to industry and get a job and a paycheck. That's going to put a hurt on us on already a short staffing issue that we have with aviation safety inspectors. That's going to continue down the road if we don't open up this government today. One last thought. Let's all be and work together in solidarity. As a union that I represent, I'm proud of the professional aviation safety specialists. Let's all work together and keep this going. Keep the safety of the flying public number one, as we always do. Keep the messaging going, and let's do it together as brothers and sisters of the unions of the FAA. Let's get this government shutdown? Ah. Let's get a paycheck today. Thank you. Yes.
So thank you. Before I bring up our last speaker and Paul closes this out, as everybody here knows, they're well aware, we did get leave and earning statements today, and our members that are working as essential employees got 0 on their paychecks. 0. Yep. And I want to read real quickly a post that a good friend of mine put on social media today that I thought actually hit the nail on the head on how we all feel about this. Real people, real consequences. She wrote, "To the man who fought for this country and put his life on the line and is now protecting lives in the air with no check, I'm sorry your country did you this way. To the husband and wife who struggled for 8 years to get pregnant and just had a miracle baby days ago, and he is being told to report to work instead of being there for the healing and caring of a 2-day-old newborn they've just waited so long for, I'm sorry. To the single mom who worked her butt off to go through the intense and difficult training, succeeded to become a certified air traffic controller, and provide secure and stable life for her children in a highly successful career, to have her checks withheld, I'm sorry. To the newest recruit that was furloughed his first day on the job and has student loan debt due now, I'm sorry. To the mom with a child who's been just diagnosed with the terminal illness and has no sick leave during a shutdown, is having to choose between her family and work, I'm sorry. To the dad who's missed more soccer games, bedtime stories, school plays, to guide thousands of other children home safely, I'm sorry the vacation you booked a year in advance to make it up to your family was stolen from you. To the wife about to undergo reconstructive surgery for the breast cancer she just beat, I'm sorry your husband can't be there unless it's scheduled on his day off because he has to go to work and there's no leave in a shutdown. I'm sorry. To the woman that has given 30 years of her life to this job, I'm sorry nobody is there to process your retirement paperwork. These are real people paying for the shutdown. Real people, real consequences. In this shutdown, I'm proud to bring up a man who has committed his whole life to representing men and women in the transportation industry. Our brother from the Transportation Trades Department, Mr. Larry Willis.
Brothers and sisters, Paul and Trish, thank you for convening us and holding this outstanding event and rally this afternoon. You know, Trish is right. I represent 32 unions. I represent workers in all modes and areas of transportation. And I come here today in solidarity with you because we understand how important the federal government and federal employees are to making sure that our aviation system, our transportation system is safe, secure, efficient, and can grow and drive this economy. You know, we know that it is simply immoral. This shutdown is immoral. Why? Because there are 800,000 federal employees that are not getting a paycheck. There are thousands of air traffic controllers, FAA inspectors, technicians that either have to go to work or are being asked to stay home that aren't getting paid. So my commitment to you is we will work with you shoulder to shoulder, day in, day out, hour in and hour out to end this shutdown. God bless.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you, everybody, for being here. We are NATCA. We are union. We are NATCA. Amen. Amen. You know what? Over the last few days, people have been saying, is there anything we can do? You know what? You can write Congress, call Congress, implore Congress and the White House to end the shutdown. Today. Let's hear it. End the shutdown. Today. You know, I think at the end of today, if they haven't heard us yet, we'll just have to do this again and keep screaming, and maybe it'll be a little warmer. But it is real people, real consequences. You heard what Trish read, and it is affecting the the men and women who run the safest, most efficient system in the world, the highly trained professionals, the air traffic controllers and the other safety professionals that do an outstanding job and the gold standard of all aviations around this globe. So I ask you, contact your congressmen, your congresswomen, and tell them to end the shutdown. Today. Contact the White House. Today. To end the shutdown. Today. I say end the shutdown. Today. American public, I ask you, contact your legislators and end this shutdown. Today. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for everything that you do.